Good evening. This is the Elliott Wave Daily Update for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 for Monday, October the 28th, 2024. Strange Sunday opening and even stranger Monday. Um, and I'll tell you why. As I left it on the weekly update, that I had felt that the market was put the four in here and they were starting to make their move to get going on that minute fifth wave. Then we had that sudden turn. We made a nice high. We made a sudden turn. We came all the way down, crossing over what that would have been wave one. So, just blew it all out of the water. So I labeled it A, B, looking for a C wave, and left these on as markers for what we could look for. Then label that wave one. Then came in yesterday when Globex opened, we gapped up. And the reason was that, well, the retaliation from Israel back over to Iran created a situation where crude oil opened down $3. And so everybody just thought, great, this is all great, great for our markets, et cetera, et cetera. And they just started to go. So when I was looking at it yesterday afternoon, I was saying, oh, wow, okay, so what is this trying to tell me? And essentially, it's kind of like what I did say, 1, 2, 1, 2. And I thought, okay, we're going to go up, 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 and then to come in. And it's like, yeah, okay, we still under that thing. We just need to go. Well, we didn't. We started to go down, then we went down, then we went down, then we went down. And so coming back, and I thought, well, thank God I didn't go back and change this because it's A, B, and the C, and that was a 1 of C, 2 of C, and we're in a 3 of C. Now, here's the deal. If we're in a 3 of C, it's got to move a little bit faster than what it's going. It's got to come down quicker than what it's doing. It's maintaining itself above 58.50. Now, whether that's just because it's getting pinned or whatever the situation is, or everything around what's going on. But the Dow did a nice recovery today, and the Dow stayed higher all day. In fact, all the markets basically stayed higher all day. The Russell had a very good day today. And the NASDAQ started out great, went negative at the end of the day, broke through a bunch of levels, came back up. And is it setting the stage for additional decline? My own personal thought is yes, which means I don't see how the S&P is going to hang out up here when we have 5 out of the 7 mags reporting this week, starting tomorrow by Google. And then on Wednesday, I think we got Meta and Microsoft. And then on Thursday, we have Apple and AMD and Amazon. AMD's in there somewhere as well. No. Yes, I believe it is AMD. And that might be on the 29th as well. So in any case, we got a lot of earnings reports coming out, the bigger ones, the bulk of them. And same thing in the S&P as well, and also in the Dow. There are some major companies that are also reporting this week that pharmaceuticals and retail and all kinds of things. So we get a nice broad spectrum of like what's happening in all of our different sectors. Now, what does that mean here? Again, I'm not really sure that Elliott ever took all the sectors into play, although he did have talks about the transports, and there are other people that talk about the different utilities and the transports, et cetera, and how those stocks balance things out or whatever. Now, for me, when I'm looking at the index, I'm thinking, okay, it's holding up above 58.50. And I would think if we're dropping in a third wave, breaking 58.50 should not be a problem. Breaking down below 58.35 or 58.40 should not be a problem. Third waves have the power to do that. Getting below 58.20 should not be a problem. Third waves have the power to do that. So here we sit. And so I'm going to track it out this way. saying this is one and this is two, and that we should start to really come undone. Now, we're going to have to wait and see, because again, when the NASDAQ was giving it up, even late in the day, it was giving it up. There were, and I'll show you, moves in the NASDAQ. You were like, wow, where it was it came within 30 seconds. And I'm talking like somebody coming in and buying a big bunch of something and just jamming that index higher. And it lasted all of about 2 seconds. And then the next jamming it lower came in. And it was that kind of day over the NASDAQ. It was not easy. More on that in a minute. In the S&P, I think there will be a catch-up game going on here. And in fact, let me just take a look real quick to see what our volume was. See, volume not that great in the S&P, less than 1 million. And normal is 1 million to 1.5 million contracts trading. That's kind of the norm. So, and you would think on an impactful day as today that we would really be, cooking, and we weren't. In the NASDAQ, even worse. So that kind of under those, what we might consider thin conditions, it was like, wow, what's going on? Now we had great volume in Apple. We had great volume in AMD. We had great volume. Let me look. NVIDIA, outstanding volume in NVIDIA. Google, great volume. Amazon, okay volume. But just, this trade normally 60 million, it doubled it. Well, because it got its earnings coming up, et cetera. So you would expect the futures market to kind of kick in and maybe a little bit more. It did not. And the S&P did not. But I think we could be playing catch up here. So what I'm going to look for is that it's sitting now. Here we have, let me just kind of open this up here so we can look inside. Look at these moving averages. That 200 can't get any flatter. That 50 can't get any flatter. And they are together 58.66. Let me see. Let me get it. If I get it up high enough, we can get that out of the way. 58.66. Both the 200, 58.66. I mean, the 200, 58.66.67. The 50, 58.66.75. Both are sitting right there. The market's closed just below it. So, and then we got the 20. And we got the 8 starting to want to break down below that 5,200 configuration there. So I think that if we really start to go there, then we really could start to tumble. And if we're holding it there and we start to rally, then it truly is going to be something very different, like 1, 2, 1, 2. And this is just turns around like this is 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3. That's the 2 pictures that I can present to you today. I'm leaving it like this because of the NASDAQ. Now, again, as I spoke yesterday or over the weekend, that the outlook for the NASDAQ and the companies that are going to be reporting this week really does suggest that we should start to rally and rally pretty hard. But boy, they were not doing that one today. They were not into that today. So again, how much pull or drag or whatever is going to happen here, yet to be seen. So we have the 2 sides of this market right now. I'm labeling it as if the market's going to go down. If the market continues to hold basically current levels, and they're going to have to do that all night long, right, until we come back in tomorrow, and stay above or right at the 50 and the 200, the hourly, then I would suspect that we will start to rise. And if that's the case, we may be rising very quickly. And that would be extremely suggestive that we're in a 3 of 3 and that this all flips back. And this turns into the 4, the minute 4. We'd be in a minute wave 5, of which this is 1 of minute wave 5, 2 of 5, 1 of 3 of 5, 2 of 3 of 5, and we're going off to the races. That would be my take. And that's where we stand. RSI, we finished right in the middle, pretty much right in the middle, flat as well. So not much to be adding to this picture. A couple of things that I noticed today. There were a lot of things coming out today. The one that really kind of got shook up a little bit was Ford. Ford beat, but boy, did they get smacked. I guess somebody was disappointed. And so Ford raced up to $11.80, raced back down to $10.70, and then just played right around that area. So again, as these things start to come out, we're just going to be trying to look to see what the market wants to do with it. Because don't forget, we still have our seasonals, and those seasonals have not changed. So we're getting close to when they should start kicking in. So let me go over to the NASDAQ and let's put that up, and then let's publish this and get on the road. We get on the road. So in this one, same deal. Hourly chart. I thought that we had A, B, and we're coming down in the C wave. We gapped up yesterday. An opening of Globex, but a big gap up. And we ran up nicely after. Got up to 20,670. And then we started to come down. Then we ran up just before the opening. Then the opening happened and we went kaboom. Came back, went kaboom, kaboom. Came back a little bit, went kaboom and boom. The low today was 2480, 20,486. Now, point of contention here. Let's look at the daily. And let's go this way. And now let me just change that from a bar chart to a candlestick chart. Negative. This ended green, but it ended with a big topping tail. This ended negative, also with a big topping tail. So that suggests that we're going to get some follow through to the downside. Now, if I'm keeping this in a 1, 2, 3, and we're looking for this fourth wave, even with that new high above the third, we call it irregular, that takes us down to maybe here, but we've still got the 20 still trying to hang on to an upward bias, the 50 hanging on to an upward bias, the 200 hanging on to an upward bias, but we got some trouble at hand here. If we start to break down, it should really start to fall apart, particularly if it comes and it breaks the daily 50 at 20,038. I think that could spell some serious trouble, even though we're not looking for too much more below 20,080, which was the low that we saw back in October the 23rd, and to complete. But again, and bring it back down all the way quickly to that hourly chart. What we got going on is a B, 1, 2. And then we had 1, 2. I'm not sure what that 1 to 3, 2, but you see it is diagonalizing itself here. But of what? It gets very kind of confusing, and the market itself was very confusing. And let me just kind of point out, we can go down to a 5-minute chart. I'm going to open it up inside here, and I'm going to open these. And I'm going to take it back and just put it back on a bar chart. Boop, boop. There you go. And you can see that one, which was 5 minutes before the bell. 5 minutes before the end of the day. I'm on the West Coast. So it went from 20,517 to 20,486, pretty much in a quick get out of the way. And then boom, right back. And then they just kind of played in. That was the last 5 minutes up into the bell. And then after the bell, initially, pulling it up. Got that, got all the way back up to 523, and then bam, just drop it into that additional hour's close. So again, it is a confusing picture. And I thought, again, same deal here with that gap yesterday on the Globex opening. Okay. Because I'm thinking, what could it be? Well, outside of it, when I saw the gap and it continued to rally, I'm like, okay, 1, 2, and it goes, right? 1, 2, 1, 2. We're in that third. One of three, maybe two or three, bringing it down, but bringing it all the way down, as long as it doesn't break that, I suppose it could still be. And that would suggest that we go from here and we just start to go. Just like I said in the S&P, same thing has to be occurring here. I'm labeling it different. I'm labeling it as like you're ending it. You broke through some support via the moving averages. 20 is now on the hourly heading lower. The 8 is heading lower. If we continue to collapse overnight, these are going to go through that 50, and then everything's going to start heading down to the 20, the 200. And if it breaks the 200, which is on the hourly, which is at 20,451, I think it could get even uglier. Now, there are different ways and different fib connections. Ultimately, though, it could get, if it really starts to break down, it starts to suggest this. Now, when I had to put it back on a 4-hour chart, and I'm going to be looking at this, it's like, okay, a 4 coming down to here is not the end of the world, but it kind of, you start to wonder, okay, now what's going to propel it higher? What if they really don't like several of the earnings reports that are going to come out this week and they just drive this thing down? What's going to drive it up? Don't know. But it's going to be interesting because we have all the way through the 31st. Then we have, of course, just the turn into the November. And then that's Friday. And then we have a weekend. And then we have to come back in on the 4th of November, have the election on the 5th, the Fed on the 7th. And in between, we're still on the fence about what's going on in the Ukraine. I mean, we're getting a lot of talk now, right? Oh, yeah, North Korean troops are with Russia and they're in Russia. I mean, they're in Russia, but they're heading towards the Ukrainian front. And condemnations from the United Nations, blah, blah, blah. It's an escalation. All this talk. Could that upset the market? Yeah, it could. Could it ruin the whole rally? Yeah, it could. Even the year end, it could. And so what does that then suggest? And I hate to say it, but I'm going to pull it out of the basement basically on here in the NASDAQ, A of minor 4, B of minor 4, and we're now sinking in a C wave of minor 4. That still is out there because it hasn't been busted yet. We're not getting above levels that would kind of toss that one out and produce this minor 5th wave. In fact, we keep having trouble with what should be a minor 5th wave. So it's out there. And again, even then I was like, well, we got all this other stuff going on and we're looking for a decent end of the year rally. What could it be? Well, they're out there. We just now have to wait and see. And the volatility is remaining in the market just as I thought, even though we saw it today. They ended it unchanged, but they did some selling. They did some selling in yield VIX. Now, how much of that actually got turned into, the risk-on trade? I think somewhat. I mean, Apple had a really good day. Apple traded up 234. It was going. It was heading in both ways. Bitcoin had a really great day. Bitcoin's back above 70,000. So you got this, you're weighing it against that. What should we be doing? What's going with the dollar? It's down a little bit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's interesting, but somewhat difficult when you got to sit and trade this. Even if you're an options trader today, we got a little bit different. Now, I do give credit for one of the subscribers. He's been a very good subscriber for a long time, Brent, who kind of came out and said, oh, no, he disagreed with me that it's not that difficult to be a position trader, and went on to explain why. And I really appreciate that. And the reason is because I've not been a position trader for a very long time. And when I was an options market maker trading on the floor, you carried positions. And it was much easier to make the adjustments and also just to pair it off and not be subject to a lot of risk. And that's going back. Okay. And any positions that I have now are basically not active in the market. They're just there because I own the different product. So getting back to the NASDAQ, I am going to, the 4-hour chart also just really kind of looks like this thing could just really take a tumble. And we're going to have to realize what it is or what it isn't. What I do think, though, and not that today was the easiest day to trade, it really was not. In between these hours when it was doing this, it fought tooth and nail. You had sudden bumps, sudden drops, sudden up, sudden drop, and it kind of was that all day long. Now, able to make some money? Yes. Able to lose some money? Yes. Did that too. And so a little bit of everything. But if I'm going to leave it 1-2, then I'm going to expect this third wave to catch up and go. And so it would be not, I mean, it already is, but to do another get out of the way drop, at least down to 20,335. And then I think if it really does start to break below there, we can make it down quickly to where C would be equal to A at 20,106. Can we get below it? We can. Because we honestly would look for it to go below the A wave, and the A wave low was 20,079. So could it hold above 20,000? It can. Am I going to be looking for that? Not necessarily. I'm just going to play it as it happens, basically. So here are our levels. If it turns from here and they go ding, 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 and they start running it higher, well, then I will go back and I will say 1, 2, 1, 2. And then almost 1, 2 again. Otherwise, 1 of C, 2 of C, we're inside of 3 of C. I'd be looking for that to come down, break that level, and then do a 4, and then get that 5 in. And I would be looking for 3 to be really kind of strong. Now, moving averages, going back out, and let's just take a look at the daily to see how the daily chart was left. I already did on here and here. And I can put it back over and let's put it on a candlestick chart. You can see same deal, right? Ding, ding, topping tail, except this ended on a positive note because it stayed green. This ended on a negative. And yeah, not the greatest looking little bar. So that kind of lets us know that there's a higher probability that we're going to continue lower tomorrow. And then maybe put all that in, and then at the very end of the day, after the close, we hear from Google, and we'll see what happens. Quickly, let me take a quick look and take a look at the economic calendar for tomorrow. We have consumer confidence and job openings at 10 a.m., and that's about it. And so the next update will be on Tuesday, October the 29th.